Imagine it. The year is 1813. James Madison had been without his second in command for over a year since his last VP passed away. But this wouldn't be the only time that James Madison was sans VP. Elbridge Gerry might have seemed like an odd choice at the time, especially considering the year before the election. In 1812, it started out with him as governor of Massachusetts. It ended with him advocating for a job. So, what happened? Well, for starters, he signed some legislation that he didn't particularly agree with, but was from his party. And that was, well, the legislature came up with this redistricting. And of course, the redistricting was meant to um, kind of push certain parties ahead of others and try to get more things passed because of the way that the district was drawn. This interesting way of creating districts made some wild shapes. And those shapes were picked up, particularly this one that resembled a salamander, which kind of looks like a dragon to me, but a political cartoon listed it as Gary Mander. Therefore, the term gerrymandering is born. Now, it should be noted that technically everyone says gerrymandering, but his name was actually pronounced Gary, so technically it would be gerrymandering, but that's a whole other topic. Next, the election for governor that he was running in had serious competition. Caleb Strong was the Federalist nominee, and Gary had lost to him several times. And the fact that he supported the war on the horizon with England didn't win him any supporters in that election. After losing the election, the former governor launched an investigation into libel on the Federalist Party for things they had said about him during the campaign, which damaged his reputation with the moderate voters. On top of all of that, he co signed with a substantial loan for his brother, which could not or would not be made good on. So while Elbridge Gerry was in the thick of it in his life, we have to remember that there was a time when he really came through for us in the US. And that was a time when John Adams had so much confidence in him that he sent Gary, along with these two other men, across the ocean to Paris to negotiate on the behalf of the United States. And it was Gary who was sort of forced to stay behind when the other two went home because Talleyrand, the foreign minister in Paris, basically said that if you also leave, that I will start war with the United States. So you could say he saved us from war. So the founding fathers' background made him a safe choice to run with Madison. Also, the Democratic Republicans saw him as a positive because he would attract voters from the North as well. And it should be said that another thing they liked about him was his age. Much like his predecessor, it was believed that Gary was going to be too old to do what they didn't want his predecessor to do, which is run against who they hoped would succeed Madison in the next election, James Monroe. So the fact that he had this hero background, his age, and the voters he would attract made him the perfect candidate. As you might have picked up by this point in the series, vice presidents in this day, the role was pretty chill position. There wasn't a whole lot to it. And for Gary, though, not only was he of older retirement age in the first place, but he really just needed the income. So he was perfectly content with taking a role that was just really a title. It also gave him a chance to do things like push the agenda for his party, the Democratic Republicans, within Congress, and of course give out patronage positions. As the War of 1812 was raging on, and this gave Gerry, who was in support of the war, a chance to use his power as vice president to um, kind of troll the Federalist Party, and he ended up arresting printers of a newspaper for the Federalist Party, things like that. Finding things to be passionate about would be short lived. In November of 1814, Elbridge Gerry went to visit a member of the Treasury Department, where he would suffer what would be a fatal heart attack. Here you can see this is his headstone where he is buried in the Congressional Cemetery in D.C. Stay tuned for the only vice president to serve 2 full terms in the 1800s.